I would argue the plyometric phase is one of the most critical and often overlooked stages of rehab. But why is this? Well, I think this is because many struggle with knowing how to start, how to progress safely, and avoid setbacks, all while building the explosive power needed to excel in sports. So to help you crush the plyometric phases of rehab, I'm going to break down the plyometric continuum, a straightforward, step-by-step framework that takes the guesswork out of progression. To ensure safe and effective landings, there are 4 key elements to emphasize. First, prioritize soft landings by using adequate hip and knee flexion to cushion the impact. Second, maintain a stable base of support, keeping your weight centered and avoiding any significant weight shifts. Third, focus on knee alignment, ensuring that the knees remain stable and free from valgus collapsing or collapsing inwards. Finally, monitor for any pain or swelling during or after exercises. Any signs of discomfort or improper form must be addressed before progressing. The first stage of the plyometric framework is the eccentric absorption phase, where the focus is on mastering deceleration, an essential foundation for both injury prevention and performance. This phase is critical because it doesn't matter how fast you go, if you can't slow down, you can't use it functionally. The goal here is to absorb force with proper mechanics, creating a solid base for advancing to more explosive movements. A foundational exercise for training deceleration control is the tall to short drill. Begin by standing tall with your feet shoulder width apart, then drop into a squat-like position, focusing on controlled descent and absorbing the impact. As skills improve, advance to the double leg depth drop, which emphasizes absorbing impact from a greater height while maintaining stability and control. To add further challenge, incorporate weight into both the tall to short and depth drop exercises. Once your landing mechanics are solid, you can move into the concentric development phase, which focuses on generating force through jumping. Think of this phase as reintroducing your ability to accelerate at a high rate in a controlled manner without overloading the landing. A great place to start is the double leg box jump, where you focus on the takeoff mechanics while landing softly on a box to reduce stress. To increase this challenge, you can add resistance with the double leg box jump, with weight such as holding a medicine ball or a weighted vest. And on that note, let's hit the pause button for a second to discuss how to add weight to plyometric exercises effectively. The goal is not to overload these movements, but to maintain explosiveness and sound mechanics. Start with light weights, such as 5 to 10 pound medicine balls or weighted vests. Once the athlete demonstrates solid form and comfort with the movement, gradually increase the load by 5 to 10%. For advanced athletes, weight should not exceed 10 to 20% of their body weight, as heavier loads can compromise speed and undermine the purpose of plyometrics. So once you've mastered the explosive double leg jumps, it's now time to move into jump integration, where we combine takeoff and landing. A great example of this is the double leg squat jump, which helps build lower body power and coordination. As you progress, you can increase the intensity by incorporating variations like the double leg squat jump over an object. Finally, to further challenge the movement and enhance strength, you can add resistance by holding weights during the double leg squat jump and double leg squat jump over objects. This progression ensures that you are not only building explosive power, but also improving the stability, control, and resilience needed for dynamic, high-intensity sports movements. And finally, we reach the continuous jump stage where true plyometric training begins. These movements are quick, springy, and reactive, focusing on the stretch shortening cycle to store and release energy as efficiently as possible. A great place to start is with the double leg pogo jumps, which emphasize ankle stiffness and minimizing ground contact time. As you progress, you can move on to double leg repeated box jumps and eventually double leg jumps over hurdles. Now, if you have an advanced athlete, you can further increase intensity and add weight, enhancing demand in your lower body strength and reinforcing your ability to generate power quickly. But you're not done yet. While being able to jump on 2 feet is important, athletics often requires the ability to decelerate and explode off one leg. This is why single leg training is crucial. After successfully progressing through double leg movements, up to the continuous jump stage in my opinion, and mastering proper mechanics, the next step is to revisit the eccentric absorption phase with a focus on one leg. I typically have my athletes continue advancing their double leg continuous jumps progressions, while also gradually incorporating single leg eccentric training. This creates some overlap between double leg and single leg training, but each focuses on different phases. By going back into the continuum in this way, athletes can build toward more complex single-leg movements, ensuring both legs are equally prepared for the demands of their sport. For the eccentric absorption phase, start with exercises like the single-leg tall to short, and then progressing to the single-leg depth drop, which focus on absorbing force and maintaining balance on one leg. These movements challenge your unilateral control and lay the foundation for safe and effective landings. Once mechanics are mastered, and again, without pain, time to progress to the concentric development phase, focusing on explosive power. Start with the single leg box jump to double leg landings, emphasizing controlled takeoffs on one leg and soft landings on both legs to minimize stress. To increase difficulty, add light resistance such as medicine balls or weighted vests. Once the ability to decelerate and accelerate has been mastered, it's time to progress to the jump integration phase, where takeoff and landing are combined into one fluid movement. A great starting point is the single leg squat jump, which focuses on developing explosive power, balance, and control on one leg. Ensure the athlete maintains proper alignment throughout the movement with stable hips and knees to avoid the valgus collapse or the knees caving inwards. As the athlete becomes more proficient, you can increase the challenge by introducing the single leg squat jump over an object. This variation requires greater coordination and precision as the athlete must clear an obstacle and maintain control upon the landing. Modify the height of the object as needed based on the athlete's ability. For advanced athletes, you can further enhance the intensity by adding light weights to these exercises. But again, don't go overboard with this. Prioritize control and the ability to explode. And finally, to build true explosive power, we need to focus on continuous reactive single-leg movements that demand the stretch-shortening cycle. These exercises represent the heart of plyometric training. Start with single-leg pogo jumps, emphasizing ankle stiffness and minimizing ground contact time to promote fast, explosive movements. As the athlete becomes more comfortable, progress to single-leg repeated box jumps, which enhance unilateral power, coordination, and landing mechanics. The most advanced progression in this phase is the single-leg jumps over hurdles, which challenges unilateral strength, balance, agility, and precise timing. And just like the other phases, feel free to add light weights to these exercises if your athlete is more advanced. So start with low-intensity drills and gradually progress as strength, control, and endurance improve. Focus on quality over quantity. Each movement is performed at 80 to 100% effort. This engages the fast-twitch muscle fibers. Poor movement quality, especially when fatigue sets in, can reinforce faulty motor patterns and increase risk of injuries. If form starts to deteriorate, stop, rest, or modify the exercise to maintain proper technique. And it's really important to track volume during this phase by monitoring foot contacts. Beginners should aim for 80 to 100 foot contacts, while advanced athletes may handle higher volumes, up to 120 to 140 foot contacts. Use real-time feedback, whether verbal, visual, or video-based, to correct technique and ensure safety. And let's not forget about recovery time during this phase. Allow 48 to 72 hours between high-intensity sessions to support tissue repair and adaptation. And the beauty of the plyometric continuum is the versatility. Feel free to get creative and modify it to suit the needs of your athlete. The key is understanding the principles behind each movement. Start with mastering control during landings, then progress to developing concentric power through controlled jumps. Next, combine deceleration and acceleration into controlled jumps. And finally, work your way to more complex dynamic movements with repeated jumps strung together. This gradual progression builds a solid foundation, leading to a confident and successful return to sport. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Physio Show. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll explore everything you need to know about your body, how it works, and what it needs to keep moving.